You think your generosity makes you safe? It does not. It makes you visible. Picture this. You're 41 years old. You've built a small logistics company from nothing. 11 employees, a warehouse, a reputation for being the good guy in an ugly industry. A former college friend calls. He's in trouble. 6 months of rent, a sick kid, a story that bends exactly the right way. You wire him $11,000. No contract, no collateral. Just a handshake made of nostalgia and your own need to be seen as decent. He disappears in April. Not from cruelty, from calculation. He read you in 9 seconds. He knew your kindness had no perimeter, no defense, no cost attached to violating it. You didn't lose $11,000 that day. You lost it the moment you built a personality with no consequence system. The money was just the invoice arriving late. And here's the part that should actually frighten you. He wasn't unusually cunning. He was ordinary. He simply noticed what you never bothered to hide, that your goodwill came with no terms, no interest rate, no clause for default. Anyone paying attention could have run the same play. The only variable was who got there first. Your kindness is not a virtue sitting quietly inside you. It is a signal broadcasting on a frequency every predator in your life can hear. And somewhere, right now, someone is listening. Here's a sentence you've been taught to worship. Nice people finish rich because the universe rewards good hearts. It is a lie sold to you by people who profit from your compliance. The universe does not reward hearts, it rewards leverage. Nietzsche understood this before it had a name, what he called slave morality, the inversion where weakness gets dressed up as goodness, where submission gets a halo. Kindness without boundary isn't morality, it's biological submission wearing a suit. And every financial predator you will ever meet has been trained, consciously or not, to detect exactly that softness and price it. Let's go back to Amsterdam, 1636, tulip mania. Fortunes were being made overnight on nothing but flower bulb contracts. And the men who profited most weren't the ones who loved tulips. They were the ones who understood something colder, that a market, like a person, can be read for its emotional exposure. The traders who survived the crash of February 1637 weren't kinder or smarter than the ones who lost everything. They were the ones who never let sentiment override arithmetic. They sold when friendship said hold. They walked from deals when loyalty said stay in. There's a psychological mechanism behind this, and it has a name: indebtedness theory. When you extend unearned generosity, you don't create gratitude, you create a debt the other person now has to manage. An unmanaged debt breeds resentment, not loyalty. This is why the people you've bailed out the most often become the ones who vanish fastest, or worse, the ones who start quietly working against you. They can't stand the mirror you hold up to their weakness. Your kindness didn't buy him insurance, it bought you a silent enemy with a very good alibi. The disciplined operator knows this. He gives nothing without design. Every dollar, every favor, every ounce of goodwill is deployed like capital, expecting return or expecting nothing, but never expecting gratitude to substitute for a strategy. This is the same cold arithmetic the surviving Amsterdam traders used. They didn't stop caring about the tulip market out of malice. They stopped letting the market's story override their spreadsheet. That distinction between what a situation feels like and what it actually is the entire war you're about to be trained to fight. There is a four-phase discipline that separates the men who get financially devoured from the men who become untouchable. It starts in the mind before a single dollar moves. It ends somewhere far colder and far more powerful than nice. 4 phases: internal, isolation, execution, inevitability. Let's build the machine. Before you protect a single dollar, you have to kill something inside you. Call it the law of the severed sentiment. You cannot defend what you have not first stopped worshiping. Machiavelli's core insight, paraphrased plainly, was this: a ruler who wants to survive must learn how not to be good and use that knowledge only when necessity demands it. Not cruelty as identity, cruelty as a tool kept sheathed until the moment arrives. Most men never learn to unsheathe anything. They confuse their inability to say no with a personality trait called kindness, when it is, in fact, an absence of internal architecture. The weak man feels a request for money and experiences it as a command. The disciplined man feels the exact same request and experiences it as data. Are you a man, or are you just a nervous system reacting to someone else's emotional pressure? Picture the conversation. Them: I thought you were my friend. You, internally unmoved, externally calm. I am. That's why I'm not going to let this destroy either of us. No guilt performance, no apology for the boundary, just implacable calm, the kind that makes people recalibrate who they think you are. This phase has no external action yet. It is entirely internal, because everything external will fail if the internal architecture is soft. You are not becoming cruel, you are becoming sovereign over your own resources for the first time in your life. The man who cannot say no owns nothing. He merely holds things temporarily on behalf of whoever asks next.
Now, the audit. Call it the law of the closed ledger. Every relationship in your life is either an asset or a liability, and sentiment is not allowed to vote on which. This is where most self-help content collapses into cowardice, telling you to set boundaries while still keeping every leech in your orbit just with softer edges. That is not isolation. That is decoration. Real strategic isolation means auditing every person who has access to your finances, your time, your goodwill, and asking one brutal question: does this relationship compound or does it drain? Psychologists studying interpersonal exploitation describe something close to Karpman's drama triangle, the recurring loop where a victim, a rescuer, and a persecutor rotate roles, and the kind person almost always volunteers as rescuer, addicted to being needed. You are not rescuing anyone. You are financing your own erosion, one crisis phone call at a time. Is your calendar full of people who make you richer in resources, knowledge, or leverage, or people who only ever call when something is on fire? The weak man keeps every relationship out of fear of being called cold. The disciplined man prunes without announcement, without confrontation, without explanation. He doesn't burn bridges, he simply stops funding the ones that were never going anywhere. Some people will notice they've been quietly demoted. Most won't, because they never had access to enough of you to measure the withdrawal. You don't owe every relationship in your life a farewell speech. You owe your future self a portfolio that isn't bleeding.
This is where it becomes visible. Call it the law of the silent no. Refusal delivered without justification is refusal that cannot be negotiated. The moment you explain your no, you've opened a door for counterargument. Every reason you give becomes a target the other person will aim at, dismantle, and use to reload the request. Watch how the amateur handles this. I can't lend you money right now because things are tight and my accountant said, stop. Every clause is a crack. The disciplined man says no. Silence. Let it sit there, ugly and undefended, because it needs no defense. This echoes something close to what dark triad researchers call impression management under pressure. The person who stays regulated while the other person escalates wins the exchange, almost regardless of content. Calculated silence isn't rudeness. It's a demonstration that you are not available for emotional negotiation. Them. So that's it? You're just going to say no? You. Nothing. A level gaze. The silence does the work language can't. Do you flinch when someone's disappointment becomes loud, or do you let their volume prove your point for you? The weak man over-explains because he's still seeking approval for the boundary he just built. The disciplined man understands approval was never the goal, solvency was. Every unexplained no you deliver trains the people around you to stop testing your perimeter, and the ones who keep testing it were never going to respect an explanation anyway. Silence is not the absence of an answer. It is the most expensive answer you can give.
The final phase has no announcement. Call it the law of the unbothered reputation. Once your discipline is consistent, people stop testing it and start respecting it, not because they admire you, but because they've run the numbers and lost every time. Nietzsche's idea of the self-overcoming man wasn't someone performing strength for an audience. It was someone whose values had become so internally consistent that outside opinion simply lost its grip on his behavior. That's the target here, not cruelty. Consistency so total it reads as inevitability. At this stage, you're no longer fighting individual requests. Your reputation is doing the fighting for you. People stop asking because everyone who asked before either got a silent no or nothing at all, and the story of that has already spread quietly through the exact network that used to see you as an easy mark. Do you want to be remembered as the man who was easy to move, or the man whose position never changed no matter how hard the room pushed? The weak man spends his whole life managing individual crises, one guilt trip at a time, forever. The disciplined man builds a wall so early and so consistently that the crises simply stop arriving at his door. He isn't hunted anymore. He's priced out of the hunt. Inevitability isn't loud. It's just the quiet math of a man nobody bothers testing twice. And once that math is understood by the people around you, something strange happens. They stop asking whether you'll help and start, quietly, how they might earn it. Go back to that college friend, the $11,000, the April disappearance. Run it again, this time through the 4 phases. Internal shift. The request lands as data, not command. Strategic isolation. This relationship was already audited as a liability years ago. Low compounding, high drain. Social execution. The answer is one word: undefended, unexplained. Becoming inevitable. He never even makes the call because your reputation already told him not to bother. Same man, same friend, same crisis story, different outcome because the architecture underneath you changed. The money was never really the target. Your softness was. Remove the softness and the target disappears with it.
Tonight, before you sleep, write down the names of the 3 people who have cost you the most money, time, or peace through obligation rather than choice. Beside each name, write one sentence: asset or liability. Tomorrow, deliver one unexplained no to whichever name scares you the most. No justification, no apology, just the word and the silence after it.
Most people will watch this video, feel the recognition in their chest, and change nothing by morning. That's fine. This channel was never built for most people. It's built for the small, cold minority willing to trade the comfort of being liked for the certainty of being untouchable. If that's you, if you'd rather be respected by people who fear testing you than loved by people who exploit you, subscribe, and become one of the few who actually operate this way instead of just watching men who do. Machiavelli.